Welcome to the DAK Machine Safety Podcast. We support the development of a safer, sustainable workplace. This podcast episode, we will deal with assessing the feasibility of proposed risk reduction measures. Both the OSHA Field Operations Manual and the OSHRC Review Commission have ruled that OSHA must prove that any form of hazard control is feasible. If this sounds complex, you'll be pleased to learn that documenting a feasibility assessment typically takes less than half an hour. As you listen to this episode, remember that feasibility is your friend.
Why do you claim that feasibility is my friend?
Feasibility is a qualitative assessment of a proposed risk reduction measure being practical in the real world. It's relatively simple and fast, and you can prove or disprove the practicability of a proposed safeguard before putting it to use.
What is the definition of feasibility?
American National Standard. B11 defines feasible as reasonably capable of being done, put into practice, or carried out.
Does B11 provide criteria to help me determine if something will be reasonable for use on the factory floor?
Yes, B11 lists 12 factors: regulatory obligations, introduction of new hazards, effectiveness, machine performance, usability, productivity, durability, maintainability, ability to clean, ergonomic impact, economic feasibility, technological feasibility.
Is feasibility the same as possible?
No. B11 states that the terms feasible and possible are not considered to be synonymous.
Why is that?
Not all potential risk reduction measures are feasible. Many factors determine if a risk reduction measure is feasible. It is necessary to evaluate the application of the risk reduction measure against the 12 criteria in B11 as well as OSHA criteria.
What does OSHA provide?
In its 2023 online publication regarding the use of the hazard control hierarchy, OSHA listed criteria to decide if a hazard control was feasible. Right for the hazard. Appropriate, given how likely injuries, illnesses are. Consistent with employer policies, laws, and regulations. Not too burdensome to workers. Recognized as an appropriate practice in the industry. Effective, reliable, and durable. Readily available. Cost-effective, short and long term.
If the two sets of criteria are not identical, is it possible to combine them for one analysis?
Yes, the two sets of criteria complement each other. We find OSHA's criterion of not too burdensome to workers resonates especially well with hourly employees.
Does feasibility only apply to the control of hazardous energy?
No, feasibility applies to all OSHA regulations related to the OSHA General Duty Clause.
Before you continue, please remind me what the General Duty Clause requires.
Sure. Section 5A1 of the 1970 OSHA Act passed by Congress requires an employer to furnish to its employees employment and a place of employment which are free from recognized hazards that are causing or are likely to cause death or serious physical harm to his employees.
Why is the General Duty Clause important?
The General Duty Clause is the relevant law and regulation for employers and employees in the United States. It is the legal standard of care for occupational safety.
How does feasibility fit into this law and regulation?
For evaluation of an employer's general duty requirements, the OSHA Field Operations Manual cites, in general, Review Commission and court precedent have established that the following elements are necessary to prove a violation of the General Duty Clause. The employer failed to keep the workplace free of a hazard to which employees of that employer were exposed. The hazard was recognized. The hazard was causing or was likely to cause death or serious physical harm. And there was a feasible and useful method to correct the hazard.
Can you give me an example of how I might use a feasibility analysis?
Sure. Let's assume you need control circuit power, but OSHA says it is not legal for a task like setup and changeover to a new production run. Both the OSHA Field Operations Manual and the OSHA Review Commission have ruled that OSHA must prove that hazard control is feasible. Lockout for setup and changeover does not meet the test of feasibility.
How can I prove that lockout is infeasible?
Remember that both OSHA and American National Standard B11 2023 Safety of Machinery provide criteria for assessing feasibility. The two sets of complementary criteria are useful for proving or disproving feasibility.
You said the process of proving infeasibility is relatively simple. How can I do that?
Place the OSHA criteria in the left-hand column of a two-column matrix. Have teams of 2 to 3 experienced workers, safety pros, and engineers work on filling in the comments on the right side for each item of why lockout tagout is infeasible for a given task. Having done this hundreds of times, experience shows that this first step usually takes 20 to 30 minutes.
Is that all we have to do for an alternative method when I can't isolate the primary energy source?
No, but you must have documentation of infeasibility to proceed to the next steps for an alternative method.
What else do I have to do?
The short answer is that you must be able to prove that you have control-reliable circuits. Safety personnel can lead risk assessments and document infeasibility with the input of experienced workers and other staff. Determining control reliability must be done by personnel with the competency to design and evaluate control circuits after the infeasibility of locking the primary energy source has been documented.
Are there other steps?
Yes. Next, assess the residual risk after implementing the alternative method, determine if additional hazards were introduced, validate the risk reduction, and document your findings. Don't get overwhelmed at this point. The methods are simple, documentation is informal, and teamwork using consensus makes the process effective and efficient. The process is not time-consuming.
Why would I spend my precious time on this issue?
In many cases, OSHA's demand for lockout of the primary energy source would put the company and/or industry out of business because lockout is infeasible and impossible in many circumstances.
Besides OSHA compliance, is there any other reason why I would spend time on this?
Great question, and the answer is yes. Blind insistence on lockout when it is not feasible is like asking your mechanic to tune up or troubleshoot your car without the engine running. It can't be done, and it is likely that the workers will ignore the policy. In such a case, that worker now has no protection other than luck and trying not to be injured. Alternative methods are proven to reduce the risk of severe and fatal injuries. Thanks for tuning into this episode by DAK Machine Safety. Today we discuss feasibility. In the following podcast, we'll discuss the OSHRC Review Commission rulings. You can support us by clicking like and subscribing. Take care, everyone, and until next time.